Welcome to part 17 of the My DCEU series. In this part, we'll be doing a Nightwing movie that takes place on Earth 1. The movie starts with Dick watching the deaths of his parents. As soon as Joker is about to kill Dick's mother, Dick quickly opens his eyes to realize that he was reliving the moment in his dream. Dick gets out of bed and heads to the Batcave. Dick sees Bruce, and Bruce asks him if he had forgiven him for not telling Dick about the other Robin. Dick says that it is early in the morning, and he got up early so that he could get all the stuff that he would need to move out of the manor. He would be able to not run into Bruce. However, he should have known that that would be impossible, since Bruce had probably not left the Batcave all night long. Bruce says that if he takes one night off fighting crime in Gotham, then Gotham will reset back to where it was before there was a Batman. Dick reminds Bruce that there isn't just a Batman anymore, but there is now a Bat family. But Bruce doesn't allow anyone to take that burden off of him. Bruce says that the Bat family died with the death of Jason, Selena, and Helena. Dick says that even though Bruce lost a part of his family, there was still a family that he decided to push away, and then Dick leaves. When Dick leaves the Wayne Manor, he quickly realizes that he has nowhere to go, because he believes that there is nobody else that knows what he is going through. This makes Dick not trust a lot of people because of the lies that Bruce had told him over the years. These kind of thoughts start to invade Dick's mind, and it starts to have an impact on the way that Dick fights when he is fighting crime. He starts to get more violent, and even though he isn't killing anyone, the hospital bills that those criminals would be receiving would make them wish that they were dead. One night, Dick is patrolling Gotham, and he looks in the sky and he sees the light coming from the Gotham Police Department to light up the bat signal to ask help from Batman. This pisses Dick off because he thinks he knows how Bruce actually is, and he is sick and tired of the Gotham citizens getting manipulated by the media reporters like Vicky Vale that make it seem like Batman is the greatest detective and maybe even the greatest person who has ever lived when they couldn't be farther from the truth. This makes Dick even more eager to outdo Batman in every way that he can. Dick then gets the idea to hijack the police radio so he can listen in on all the conversations. During one of his patrols, Dick hears that there is a commotion at a nearby bank. Dick gets down there and he realizes that the bank is getting robbed. He starts to check everything out, and he sees a group of people trying to rob the bank. Dick tries to sneak up on the robbers just like Batman does, but he messes up by making a loud enough noise for the robbers to hear. Once this happens, Dick realizes that he has to act quickly to stop the robbers. He tries his best, but as soon as he starts to fight, they are already in front of him. And then another group that was in another room comes in and attacks Dick before he realizes that they are there. Since they severely outnumber Dick, they are able to win the fight. With Dick bruised and beaten, the robbers leave the money, but one of them stays behind to talk to Dick. They tell Dick that he should stay away from them every time that he sees them taking the money that they deserve. If Dick doesn't do that, then Tony Zuko will have to put him down. As soon as Dick hears that name, he gets an uneasy feeling in his stomach that he thinks that he has seen or heard that name before. He starts to take care of his wounds, and he decides to call Alfred. Dick tells Alfred about Zuko, and he asks what ways he could have met this Tony Zuko guy. Alfred says that a singular person sees 1,000 faces in a day. People also can hear even more names just by hearing conversations that are happening around them. He says that Dick could have heard Zuko's name from anywhere. However, when a person hears a name for a second time, they get an unsettling feeling from hearing that name. Maybe it wasn't just a random occurrence, but a name that is important for that person's life. So the advice that Alfred gives to Dick is that anytime he feels like there is something important that needs Dick's attention, he needs to make sure that all of Dick's attention is on that one thing, because there are a lot of other things that could distract Dick from what is important. Dick gets in contact with one of his friends named Richard from the circus. Dick asks Richard if he had ever heard of Zuko. Richard says that he doesn't remember anyone with that name. Dick tells Richard about the feeling that he had when he heard the name for the first time. Richard says that when he gets one of those strong feelings, it is usually related to a traumatic event that he has gone through in his life, Dick says that the most traumatic event he has gone through in his life is when the Joker killed his parents. Richard tells Dick that he might want to look back at that event if he wants answers on who Tony Zuko is. After that conversation, Dick sneaks into the Gotham Police Department to see if they had any police reports on the night that his parents had been killed. He manages to find the report that he was looking for, and you can see that Zuko was one of the henchmen that was working for the Joker. Dick takes a couple pictures of the report, and he starts to leave the station when he overhears Commissioner Gordon say that his daughter Barbara had been kidnapped. Dick is going back and forth on whether or not he should go after Zuko or Barbara. Dick can hear the cop cars following Gordon to find his daughter. He looks at the police report that he had found, and he thinks about what Alfred told him about what's important. He also thinks about the person that Bruce has become with all the loss that he has gone through with his family. Dick thinks that this is his chance to make sure that he doesn't fail to help another person to turn out like Bruce, especially someone who could do good like Gordon, so he decides to follow along. When they get to the place where Barbara is held, Dick sneaks into the building through the top window. He can hear Gordon trying to get into the building, but he's being held back by the other officers. Dick can see Barbara is surrounded by around 200 people that all have weapons. Dick leaps into action to take out all the guys. He starts off very well, but at some point, being outnumbered gets the best of him. Dick gets underneath a dog pile of people. He opens his eyes, and he can barely see Barbara get taken away by one of the henchmen. He then hears Commissioner Gordon trying to get into the building, even though Gordon doesn't realize that he would get hurt or killed if he came in. Dick thinks about the night that his family was killed and what he had gone through, and the feelings that he felt since that night. He realizes that if he does not power out of this, Barbara and her father would go through the same thing. These thoughts give Dick the strength to power out of the crowd of people that are on top of him. Dick manages to take out most of them, but then he gets stabbed in the back. Dick turns around as he is pulling the knife out of his back and punches the person, making them fall to the ground. The person lands on their head the wrong way, which breaks their neck. Dick realizes what he had done, and he hears another henchman scream in sorrow and fear as they rush toward the dead person. Dick overhears the person calling the dead person their son, and he realizes what relationship the two of them had with each other. Dick tries to check in on the father, but the father pushes Dick away. Dick goes to check on Barbara. Barbara hugs Dick's neck as she starts to thank him. She lets go of him, and as she looks over his shoulder, she sees the father coming for Dick, and she warns him. Dick is able to push Barbara out of the way and not get stabbed by the incoming sword. When the sword misses Dick, he is able to take the sword and stab it into the man's eye. Dick hears Barbara scream, and he runs toward her to hide her eyes from the blood that is coming out of the eye. When the police officers hear the scream, Gordon pushes his way through all of the officers, and he busts down the door. He sees Dick hugging Barbara, and he yells at her to get away from him. Barbara tries to explain to her father that Dick was not the problem. Barbara realizes that he is not going to listen to her anytime soon. Commissioner Gordon raises his gun towards the direction that Dick went towards, but Dick manages to evade all the bullets. Barbara yells as loud as she could to get Commissioner Gordon to get rid of the gun, but Gordon ignores her until Dick is able to disappear into the shadows. Gordon goes to check on his daughter, and she explains to him that the person who he was shooting at was not the person who had took her, but instead the person who rescued her. Gordon says that he is sorry for making presumptions. However, after the experience that he had with Azrael pretending to be Batman, he shouldn't take that many chances, especially when it comes to Barbara. Barbara says that it is weird that Gordon mentioned Batman, because the person who saved her fights a lot like Batman does. Almost like Batman trained this new person. Gordon says that the only people who Batman trained was the kids he took in as Robin. One of the Robins died a long time ago, at the hands of Joker and Harley Quinn, but the body was never found as it fell into a pit. The second Robin is new, but if this new vigilante running around Gotham is the second Robin, then they have become much darker than the boy wonder that they once knew. Maybe there is a problem with the Batman family that the people of Gotham don't know about. Dick hears what Commissioner Gordon said about being darker, and he realizes that he should not be known as Robin anymore, and he needs to find out the person who he wants to be so he can finally outgrow the Robin name. That is when he hears a huge noise across the Gotham Bay in Bloodhaven. Even though it is not technically Gotham, he can't turn his back on anyone who might need to be saved. He heads over to Bloodhaven, and he sees a giant destroying all the streets of Bloodhaven. Dick goes to investigate, and he runs into a huge man that looks like a cinder block. Dick goes to talk to them, to ask why they're running around the city, but the only thing they can say to Dick is that they are looking for the material that made him into the monster that he had become, when all he wanted was the powers. Dick asks him what powers he attained from this material. That is when the person smiles at Dick and hits him as hard as he can, to send Dick a couple of blocks away. Dick hits a parked car that knocks him out. While Dick is knocked out, someone drags him away. Dick wakes up with his hands tied behind his back while he is sitting in a chair. He hears a voice that tells Dick that he should have stopped looking for him when he had the chance. Dick is finally able to gain full consciousness, and he is able to see who is talking to him. Dick sees a man in a suit surrounded by money, weapons, and guns. He takes a cigarette butt out of his mouth and starts to spin it around his fingers. Dick realizes who he is talking to and says that they are 20 Zuko. Zuko says that Dick seems to be very smart, but at the same time, he seems to be very dumb for trying to track down the Zuko gang. Dick asks Zuko how he was able to figure out that he was the new vigilante who was running around Gotham. Zuko says that he always knows who could be a possible threat to his empire. So, when he saw that there was a new vigilante running around, he saw it as a challenge he has not faced in a while, since as of late Batman has turned his attention from guys like him to the bigger threats like aliens, guns, and monsters that seem to be terrorizing the Earth almost every day. This allows the drug lords to get away with more and more stuff. Just look at how he was able to get away with hiring Slade Wilson, a known hitman, to kidnap the police commissioner's daughter just so he could see what kind of person Dick was and what he was dealing with. Once he was able to see what all he needed to see, he was able to pick up Dick to send him a message that he will always be one step ahead of Dick, and whenever Dick tries to be a vigilante. Dick smiles and laughs at the statement, which makes Zuko confused. Zuko asks Dick why he is laughing so much. Dick says that Zuko has been a part of his life for as long as he can remember, even if Dick didn't know what Zuko's name was until now. He then says that around a decade ago, at a circus, Zuko took his entire family away when he killed both of his parents. For so many years, he had blamed the Joker for his parents' deaths, but believing it was Joker who killed his parents instead of a normal crime lord made it easier on his mind as a kid. But now he is able to face the person who took his parents away from him. By the way, one of the best acts while he was at the circus was getting out of a knot very quickly. That is when Dick reveals that he was able to escape from the string that was holding him in the chair. Dick then tackles Zuko to the ground. He starts to throw rights and lefts at the face of Zuko, and he is not letting the assault up. As he is punching Zuko, Zuko's face starts to look like the Joker's. Once the face has fully turned into looking like the Joker, Dick starts to hear Gordon's face inside his head, saying how he seems to be darker than when he was Robin. He then hears Alfred's voice telling him that he needs to figure out what is important enough to have his attention. Joker's face then turns to Bruce's, and it makes Dick realize that he needs to figure out what is the important stuff, but he knows that he should not be focused on Zuko. Dick gets off of him with his suit and mask torn. He starts to walk out of the warehouse that they were in, and he runs into Richard. Both of them freeze when they see each other. Richard looks at Dick's face, and then at his suit. Before he can say anything, Dick asks him what he's doing at this place. And Richard says that he was just there trying to do a job. But he asks Dick the same question, and why he was wearing a spandex costume like he is Superman. Dick tells Richard how he had become Robin after his parents were killed. Richard asks why he was targeting his boss. Dick explains how Zuko was the person who killed his parents instead of the Joker. He tells Richard that he needs to leave before it is too late. Richard agrees, and they both leave. For the end of the movie, Dick goes to talk to Bruce and Alfred. Dick explains that there was a time when he wanted to see his parents' murderers get the same fate, even when he thought that person was the Joker. However, he came close to being the same person that acts like the Joker in Zuko. It was in that moment when Dick realized what Bruce was trying to tell him about always being there for Gotham. Bruce asks if that meant he will come back to live with him. Dick says no, because Gotham has their fighter, their savior, their protector, because they have Bruce. They have the Batman. However, Bloodhaven does not have anyone like that. And after what Dick saw with the cinder block guy, the people of Bloodhaven deserve someone like that. However, if Robin is in Bloodhaven, it could lead to some confusion. So, Dick needs a new and original name. Alfred speaks up and says that when he was in the British Army, he heard stories of a person who looked out for anyone that needed help, no matter who they were. Nobody knew his real name, but he had the codename of Nightwing. Dick says the name has a nice ring to it, and that is exactly the kind of person he wants to be as Nightwing, to help anyone and everyone that he can, wherever they may be. As Dick is saying this, we look up into the sky to see a fire falling from a star, and it splits into two separate balls of fire. The first post-credit scene is showing Slade, and he walks over to his dad's son. Slade then says that the new vigilante will not stop Deathstroke. The second post-credit scene shows Dick checking into his new apartment in Bloodhaven when something sneaks up behind him and takes him into the shadows. That is when a white Martian walks out and shapeshifts into Dick. The second movie of this part is a Dr. Midnight movie. The movie begins in the year 1941, right before the post-credit scene of the Wildcat movie. Dr. Charles McNider receives a letter from the courthouse stating that he has to come in for a case to be an expert witness. He pins the letter onto the calendar when there is a knock on the door. And Ted walks in, setting up the events which happen in the Wildcat post-credit scene, ending in the explosion. McNider opens his eyes after the explosion to find out that he is still alive. Once the realization of him still being alive finally wears off, it hits him that he has had his eyes open this entire time, but he hasn't been able to see anything. He starts to call out Ted's name, and he starts to feel around for Ted's body. McNider manages to find Ted's body, and he checks for a pulse. After it is revealed that Ted is still alive, but unconscious, Charles tries to wake Ted up, but it is unsuccessful. McNider lets out a scream of panic as he feels like he is alone. This is when a car pulls up to the wreckage. The person gets out of the car and runs straight towards Charles. They start to check on McNider, and he asks them if it's really Mira. Mira says that it is her, and she apologizes to him if she was late for her job. McNider says it is alright, because if she was there, then she would have been caught in the explosion as well. She asks him how he got out of the explosion. He says that he has no idea how it happened. Mira looks over at Ted's burned body. She can't believe what she is seeing when she sees Ted wearing the Wildcat costume. She tells Charles about the costume, and he tells her to call in for an ambulance and to cover up the costume. After McNider and Ted regain some of their strength and are out of the hospital, McNider signs himself up for an intense physical therapy program to get back to full strength. Every step of the therapy process, Charles is accompanied by Mira. By the time that Charles is able to carry himself again, him and Mira are approached by a police officer who had been investigating the explosion. Mira tries to protect Charles by turning the officer away, but McNider tells Mira that he would like to speak to the officer, but he would like for her to be there with him. The officer tells them that they believe that a man named Killer Maroney, who has been on the police department's radar as a known gangster, was the person who had planted the bomb. They believe that Maroney wanted to get rid of McNider because he was the key witness in the trial of one of his henchmen. Mira asks if they had caught Maroney. The officer says that he had gone into the wind. They don't know where he was. This makes Mira upset. Charles is able to calm her down and tell her that she needs to let the officers do their job. Once the officer leaves, Mira asks why Charles did not press the officer more about catching Maroney. Charles says it's because he knows that there is not any evidence connecting Maroney to the attempt to take Charles's life. However, the trial that Charles was supposed to be an expert witness in was forced into a mistrial because of the state Charles was in. Therefore, they will have a chance to get the justice they deserve against Maroney. Once the trial happens, Charles is prepared to testify, but Maroney does not show up to the courtroom when he is legally supposed to be there. This makes Charles lose faith that the police can't find a simple criminal. Once Charles is allowed to leave the courtroom, he becomes determined to become the person the police need to catch the criminals like Maroney. He starts to tell Mira his plans. Mira has a ton of questions on how Charles plans to find Maroney in the state that he is in. Charles explains that he feels much stronger with the physical training that he had been going through since Maroney attacked him. Also, he has realized that since he has lost his sight, his other senses have become stronger. This allows him to use his senses to have another type of seeing so he can know who and what is around him at all times. Despite Mira's efforts to persuade Charles to not go and find Maroney, he still trains on the down low without Mira knowing. To make it where Mira doesn't find out what he's doing, Charles goes out early in the morning before Mira wakes up. The first time Charles goes out to find information about Maroney, he is very unsuccessful, because even though he is strong enough to fight off all the mobsters, he is able to use his senses to see where all of them are at. It isn't good enough, because he still hasn't gotten used to using his eyes during an activity. This is especially true when the mobsters start to try to attack him back. It doesn't take long for Mira to figure out what Charles has been up to, with all the bruises that he has gotten from going out every morning. Charles is easily convinced to give the crime-fighting a rest. Mira suggests he fills his free time in other ways. Charles decides to use his free time to start writing for a magazine company and a possible way to expose the mobsters without physically fighting them. While he was working on a story one night, he hears glass shattering across his house. As he is going from room to room trying to find where the noise came from, he realizes that the level of light that he can see starts to change based on the amount of light that is on in the room. By the time he finds where the crash happened, he figures out that the darker the environment is, the more he can see. To test his theory, Charles starts to turn the lights on and off. As soon as he does this, he can finally see what his environment looks like while he is in complete darkness. Since he is finally able to see, he finds what broke the glass. On the ground, he finds an injured owl that had hurt himself when it flew into the window. When the lights turned off, Charles is able to restore the owl to its full health. That makes him realize his life as a doctor isn't completely gone, but at the same time, he still wants to get revenge on Maroney. This allows Charles to make the decision to have a life as both a doctor and a crime fighter. Since it was the owl that helped him with this new revelation, Charles decides to adopt the owl, and Charles names the owl Hootie. Charles understands that he needs to explain to people how he's able to see well enough to perform surgery as a doctor. He is able to invent a pair of glasses that allows him to see during the daytime when it is light outside. Once he invents the glasses, he lets Mira know about them, and she is excited that she can finally forget about trying to take out Maroney by letting the police do their job. Charles says that he can't do that because if he doesn't get to them before they get to him, then he won't be a doctor anymore because he nearly survived the last attack from them. There's a good chance that he won't survive the other one. Mira asks him about his oath to not cause any harm as a doctor. Charles says that he does not want to break his oath, but to save and protect everyone in the community, he might have to break that oath. Mira points out that if anyone finds out that Charles is the one fighting Maroney, there is a chance that he could lose his license, and then he would still not be a doctor and help people. Charles says that if that happens, it will not matter because he will at least be alive and still be able to take care of Mira. Mira smiles and says they need to take care of each other, as they are partners in the relationship. This means that Charles shouldn't go off on his own doing something that could get him hurt without coming to Mira first. Charles says that he understands that a relationship requires the two of them to work together as a team, so he asks Mira what she suggests to do in the fight against Maroney. She says that he has figured out how to get his sight back with his glasses, so the other issues that he had were getting outnumbered and the risk of getting his identity to be known. Charles thinks for a second and he suggests for his identity problem that he wears a superhero costume like the Lone Ranger wears. He then looks at Hootie and he thinks about how owls are nocturnal animals and only work during the darkness of the night. He thinks if he can make the environment that he is in into complete darkness, then he can take out his enemies one by one before they can overwhelm him. Also, to help him blend into the darkness, he should wear dark colors in his suit. Once he tells Mira his solutions, she agrees that she will support him in his fight against Maroni, and she makes his red and black suit from the comics. While Charles makes his signature blackout bombs that releases a cloud made up of a black ink substance that only he can see through. Once everything is ready, it is now time for them to wait for Maroni to make himself known. Shortly after, Charles hears about a grocery store worker that was supposed to be a juror in a trial that involves a member of Maroni's gang getting attacked by the gang's members. Charles reveals to the world his invention of the glasses and says that he never lost his ability to do surgery to save people's lives. He then says that he will be doing the surgery on the grocer's wife. He does this because he wants to show Maroni that he did not get rid of Charles. His plan works as Maroni's men rushes to the operating room mid-surgery. Before they enter the operating room, they cut the power lines that turns the lights off. What they don't realize, however, is that Charles can still see in the dark. This allows Charles to finish the surgery. Charles hears the men enter the room, and as soon as he sees the first gang member, he quickly takes out one of his blackout bombs and throws it into the air. The room fills the air with black smoke, which allows Charles to easily take out all of them. Once he's done, he picks up one of the men and asks him where Maroni is. Since he cannot be seen, Charles easily gets the information from the scared goon. Charles makes sure that the grocer is going to heal in the hospital, and he heads out to the location where the goon told him Maroni would be in his Dr. Midnight suit. Charles cuts the power just like Maroni did to the hospital. Charles uses his blackout bombs to pick everyone in the game off one by one, and he leaves Maroni alone as the last person. Maroni could hear what was happening to all of his guys, but he could not see what was happening because of the bombs. This makes him take a gun and start shooting in every direction, trying to find Charles. Charles is able to see where the bullets would go, and he is able to evade all of them. It wasn't enough, however, and Charles manages to take out Maroni. Charles is about to cause Maroni to go blind like Maroni did to him. Ramirez's words echoes inside his head, reminding him about the oath that he took as a doctor not cause harm. So, Charles ties Maroni up in a chair and uses Maroni's house phone to call the police to make sure that Maroni is brought to justice. The movie ends with Charles and Mira rebuilding and reopening their own clinic that works closely with the hospital that they are located in to allow Charles to do surgery on people who are blind for free. The first person to be checked out of the clinic was Wildcat. Before Ted leaves, they have a conversation saying that if their alter egos need help from the other person, they will be there. The post-credit scene is a production of a silent film. The director tells the actor who is playing the Lone Ranger that he was being fired because silent films were going out of style. The actor does not have the voice to be a good dialogue actor. The final movie of this part is on Earth 3, and it is a cheetah movie. The movie begins with Barbara Minerva, whose parents have a lot of fortune. It is because of their fortune that during Minerva's childhood, neither of her parents were around to be actual parents. This caused Minerva to have the feeling of being wanted and struggling to figure out what person she had in the world. When she was getting ready to graduate high school, Minerva was the valedictorian in her graduating class. However, when she told her parents about her accomplishment, they told her that graduating high school isn't that big of a deal because 99% of the population achieves it. They didn't tell her that they won't be attending the graduation ceremony because the work that got them all the money that they have is more important to their family. Besides, if Minerva was actually smart, she would be the valedictorian for her college graduating class. This makes it where Minerva was celebrating her high school graduation alone since her parents were not there, and her upbringing caused her to not have any social skills to make any friends. When she gets to college, she becomes fascinated with the different tribes and cultures around the world. During her final senior project to get her doctorate degree, her and her partner, Tom Levin, learn about a tribe with a rich history located in the African tribelands. Both of them are fascinated with the culture of this tribe, as it seems like it is very close to operating like a family. And Minerva wants to find them to try and find a community that she can call her own if they accept her. However, while he is doing a little bit more research, Levin finds out the tribe has a history of doing sacrifices. He decides not to tell Minerva about his findings and not get her hopes up. and he also thinks that her obsession with this tribe won't last long after she graduates. At the college graduation ceremony, Minerva finds out that she was second in her graduating class by being beat by Levin by only 1 point. She thinks that this is still a big accomplishment, but when she tells her parents, who do decide to attend the ceremony, they tell her that since she wasn't the valedictorian again, she'll only get a percentage of the money from them than what she would have gotten if she was perfect in her studies. This makes her lose her mind at her parents, and she tells them that she doesn't want or need their money because she will still make a name for herself, even if she is alone, since she has always been alone for everything else in her life. After this fight, she decides to make a name for herself as an anthropologist. After years of working as an anthropologist and almost forgetting about the African tribe, she finds out that some of the remnants of the tribe had been discovered. She calls Levin to ask him if he would like to attend. Levin remembers what he had found while they were doing their doctorate, which scares him to go, but he can't let Barbara go by herself, so he tells her that he will bring a research team along with them. During the expedition, the guys that were leaving Minerva's team around leads them straight to the remaining tribe members living in the area. The tribe members kill all of Minerva's and Levin's team, except for both of them that were kept alive. Both of them survive by jumping into a nearby river that brings them to a lost city located on the coast of Africa. When they get out of the river, they stumble across one of the sacrifices that Levin had heard about. Minerva and Levin start to walk closer towards the ritual, and they figure out that the person who is being sacrificed was from an earlier expedition group that was also trying to find the lost city. They quickly realize that they could have been the people who were going to be sacrificed. They try to leave, but they get spotted by some of the tribe members. The tribe walks them towards the sacrifice spot, but when they get there, they are attacked by a fellow African tribe. All the tribe members that kidnapped Minerva and Levin get killed by the competing tribe. The new tribe is able to kill the woman who was going to be sacrificed, but Minerva saved her before she was killed. They decide to run into a nearby cave, but when they run into it, the opposite tribe throws a renegade bomb that causes the cave to close both of them in. Before they're closed in, Minerva sees that Levin was being forcibly taken by the tribe. Minerva tries to find another way to escape the cave, but the person who she saved tells her that there is no chance. Minerva asks how she knows this. They say that they were raised in this tribe. They explain that they were the original head of the tribe. They were the person who would perform the sacrifice. However, after they started to have the doubts on what the sacrifice represented, the tribe turned on them and set them up to be the next person to be sacrificed. Minerva introduced herself, and the old tribe leader introduces herself as Chuma. Minerva asks Chuma what the end result of the sacrifice is. Chuma explains that the ritual, which could only be performed on the full moon and required a blood sacrifice, would have turned the new leader of the tribe into a cheetah god and allowed her to live for centuries before the invading tribe attacked. Minerva guesses that since they need blood to do the sacrifice, they can't perform the ritual to turn her into the cheetah to help them escape. Before Chuma can respond, they hear some of the boulders moving as they see Levin getting rid of the rocks so that everyone could escape the cave. When Levin gets to them, he accidentally lets Minerva know that he had been in contact with her parents. Minerva yells at him over this, and he says that since he knew that this tribe performed sacrifices, he felt obligated to let her parents know what was going on. What he didn't know, however, was that her parents hired the invading tribe to take out the originals. Levin apologizes to Minerva, saying that he only wanted to see her safe and that this is a dangerous place to be. This upsets Chuma, as he says that it is only dangerous for people who make it dangerous for themselves. With his back turned to her, Minerva reaches up and scratches Levin's neck. When he falls, Minerva takes out her pocket knife and guts Levin's, which results in killing him. Once he is dead, Minerva drinks the blood, fulfilling the prophecy of the sacrifice. Minerva says that her only friend betrayed her, but his sacrifice will help her find her new family when she becomes the cheetah. Chuma is able to perform the sacrifice for the other tribe and enter the cave, and Minerva takes them all out by using her new cheetah powers. They leave the cave, and they see that they are the only two people left alive. Chuma says that her home, family, and culture are all gone. Minerva tells her that she is Chuma's new family. They can go back to where Minerva was born in England. Chuma agrees, and the movie ends with both of them returning to Minerva's home, where she is able to secretly kill both of her parents, and was then able to take over their business. She, therefore, is able to create the family that she always wanted instead of being forced into being in the family that she was born into. The post-credits scene for this movie is Cheetah working into her new business when her office door is kicked off its hinges and the woman ties her lasso around her and tells Cheetah that they need to talk. Thank you for watching part 17 of the series. Please like, comment, and